Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today we have an update with Xali Gold. President and CEO Joanne is joining us. The company had news out this morning on drill targeting at its Serape project in Mexico. The format of today's session will be an update from Joanne, followed by Q&A. If you have questions, please enter them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And as always, today's presentation will contain forward-looking statements. If you can find those in the company's presentation on the website that was recently updated. And welcome, Joanne. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. And thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
We're going to talk mostly about Sarape today. Everybody knows we have other projects in Mexico and a few in Peru. But today we're concentrating on Sarape, and I'm happy to answer questions or give a slight little bit of information on the others afterwards. Disclaimer, so everybody knows we have forward-looking statements. Please review this when you have time. Investment highlights. The newest thing is the work that's been recently been done by Enrique Bernoy and Matthew Melnick, our key team on the exploration end, who've been going through all the previous data and been able to identify where we believe is the best zone, called the boiling zone, to be looking for higher grade mineralization and let's just call it enough to be an ore body. And we're really happy we've been able to, by using mostly photographs and a lot of the data from the old core, identify this. And that was the key thing to do after we acquired the project. A little bit of summary on El Oro, which is really has been our key asset for quite a while. And then we're still looking in South America and hoping to update you on something there soon. So I have quite a few slides in this presentation, and I'm not going to read things to you, but a lot of it I really want to get across all the examples we have, lots of core photos and such, so you can really get a good feeling for what we've done with the project so far and why we're so excited about delineating the drill targets and, of course, getting drilling on Sarape. It's a very prolific area in Sonora Rio River. Silvercrest just having sold Las Chispas, so it's now owned by Coeur, and a very, very profitable mine, very high grade. Extensive mineralization in our own Sarape, 2 main veins. And it's definitely, we've determined low sulfidation, so similar to Las Chispas and many other projects in Mexico and all over the world that are very significant. Significant deposits, significant mines, and there's significant, excellent exploration potential, and we'll go through that, and then also some very good infrastructure in the area. So we're in a prime location. You can see Las Chispas is here, Sarape just north, and so there's really a trend that is connected here on sort of a northeasterly with Santa Elena and the Ermitaño as well on the same trend. The veins themselves are northwesterly, but they are in clusters that are connected in this northeasterly fashion. So we're continuing, we believe the Las Chispas cluster is continued on our ground. And in fact, there's veins here called Chiltepin, and we have a vein called Chiltepin, but our larger vein is Sarape. So just coming north of here is where the Sarape property is. And here, very, very distinct on surface is the Sarape vein over 5 kilometers and the Chiltepin vein here over 2 kilometers. And so some information on the geological setting. Sarape sitting here with lots of geochem indicating that there's gold and silver in the structure, and also the same for Chiltepin on a less extensive area, and geological setting that's very similar to other deposits in the area. And geochemistry, here you're seeing several of the grades seen on surface here, and then in drilling some of the highest grades. There is one that was 9 grams, but that was a free gold in a breccia piece, so we don't consider that a true intersection of a vein, but it is very, very indicative, and I'll get into that. So these are the 2 main veins that have been identified so far, and we'll be concentrating our work and explaining what we're doing in the Serape vein, because that's where we have the most data. And so here you can see outcropping of the veins, and then some of the low sulfidation epithermal textures, quartz after calcite, that are very typical of low sulfidation and some of the first things people look for on surface. And here, this is where we found, well, we didn't find, previous drilling found free gold in a breccia, which means it's been brought up from below, and that was in hole 12. And I'll show you that on cross section, but that's very significant. And now, and the grade here was 9.5 grams. I'm not sure the exact width, but as I say, because it's a piece of free gold in a breccia, it doesn't, it's not a grade of a vein over a vein, but it's very significant that there is free gold in the system. So previous drilling from 2019 to 2021 showed a very wide quartz carbonate vein over 450 meters vertical, which is very significant. And then within that, the prospective horizon is over about 250 meters, from 750 meters above sea level to 1,000. And within that, so that's been identified as where we think the boiling zone is. Within the Sarape vein, that was only intersected by 3 holes. And that's of about 19 holes drilled on the property to date, most of which were on the Sarape vein. Only 3, I think 9 of the holes hit the vein, but 3 of them actually got this window over 100 meters lateral of the actual prospective zone, the best zone. So and it got the zone, so the boiling zone, but horizon, but it didn't get necessarily a shoot. So we don't think the best grade has been found by any stretch. We're just really, of these 3 holes, they're just getting into the boiling zone. Boiling zone is where you get the right temperatures and pressures to precipitate the higher grades of gold and silver. In these drill holes, and we'll show some examples of that, 4 to 6, they have the best textural development. But again, they're not in what we think is the best part of the vein, but they are indicating that we're getting closer and will help us vector into where we want to go. And then 3 holes recommended to test that prospective horizon to the northwest, and 1 for the to the east southeast. And obviously we would plan to do a lot more drilling, but only 1,000 meters would be the first stage or first step, which would be very significant. We would expect to be able to identify some higher grades within the boiling zone and understand it much better. Here you see low to intermediate sulfidation districts, and it just shows you how there's many structures, but that the thicker areas, the higher grades, and these are several deposits, and it's actually documented in tons of gold, and there's 2,000 pounds, so in a ton. So although that very significant deposits, and basically it's showing that the higher grades are occurring where there's curvature or dilation, we would call it. It opens up enough so that the fluids can really get in there and precipitate gold and silver. And here you can see what we like in the structures, and this is Matthew's work because he's the structural specialist. A diffuse step over is where things are crossing over here, and this is really opened up in the Sarape vein, and that's where most of the gold and silver is found on surface. However, we believe that because it's a very wide spaced area, you get several different structures with the mineralizing fluids, but it's not where you get the best grade, because you want it to be somewhat restrictive. You don't want to be too restrictive so the fluids just flow through. You want them to stay there and deposit the gold and silver, but if it's too wide, then it's just spreading out over too much of an area. So you want a tight step over, and you want also some dilation. So things like in these curvatures, and in here is where you're getting better grades and in your ore bodies really. So our drilling we want to do would be, rather than focusing on exactly where other people focus, most of the drilling where you're getting the higher grades on surface, we would go to the northwest and also one go to the southeast. So this is a schematic example of low sulfidation system. Here you can see how you get a very distinct chalcedonic cap here, and then you get into more alteration clay minerals that are very distinctive. And then this is actually the what we call the boiling zone. And as I mentioned, it occurs, it can occur in a flat line, or it can be plunging, so it can have different angles to it. But it's where you're getting the best pressures and temperatures to precipitate the gold and silver. That's why it's called, and the boiling zone is where the fluids are really boiling as well. So that's why it precipitates. It's because the fluids are boiling, and that's why it's called that. So it's kind of it's a very technical word and term, but it gives you some perspective here as to what you find. So your surface is up here, or your surface was there when this ore body was created. And I'm going to go into many examples of low sulfidation ore bodies. Some are mines, some are deposits. And just to have some comparison of what we're looking for and how they occur. So here at Los Gatos, you can see there's nothing on surface. There really was no high geochem that we know of on surface there, but probably a lot of textures of boiling. And then in here, you get the curvature, which creates a dilation zone. And this is a very significant ore body that was found at depth without tracing to the surface necessarily. And some of it faulted, so sometimes you do get displacement. So your ore body isn't just one continuous body. And here it was fairly flat lying, so not a lot of plunge to it. But that's the Los Gatos ore body, and here's the reserves. And again, nothing on surface. This is Las Chispas, the one that's next door to us. And here you can see that the plunge to the mineralization. So from surface, it did surface out this way, but all of this is not seen on surface. And then this area is where the higher grade was, which is expanded here. And so you get a better idea of how an ore body, low sulfidation ore body can form. And it did have some step off with some faulting is believed there. And then Ermitaño, which is still in the same trend as us in Sonora. And this is where we think Sarape would sit in this. So you're getting into the system, but you're not into the higher grades, which are at the core here. But you're getting a lot of indications that you're on the fringe. And that's what we found so far at Sarape. And then here at Ollantaytambo, very well-known system. Most of the mineralization deposit and mine, it was found here where there was an open pit, but look at all the mineralization that was eventually found at depth, and some of it believed to be displaced by faulting and plunging this way. So even when you drill into your first grades, say right here, you don't necessarily know if it's going to be flat lying or plunging in some manner. And that you can determine with a lot of structural interpretation from surface work. And then again here, a lot of the drilling was done initially from surface. Magda, you can see my cursor, right?
Yep, for sure.
Okay, great. Because if not, then nobody's understanding what I'm talking about. Okay, so most of the drilling started here. You can see a huge fan of drilling from where mineralization came to surface. Yet look at how the eventual ore body was just, is in fact sitting. So you wouldn't have known that unless you started chasing it down, and understanding your structures is the key thing. And it's still open at many ways. So to the going vertical and going lateral. So that's what we call the plunge, because it's not sitting horizontal. So I've already gone through this, just to remind you all the important parameters that we've been finding so far. And here is where the boiling zone has been detected in only these 3 holes. So even though all these holes were drilled in the Sarape vein, what we found in textures and in grades and different vectors, this is where we can say that it's definitely detecting a boiling zone. within these holes. And then here was where the high grade free gold, well, I should call it just free gold, piece of free gold was found in a breccia. So that means that that breccia brought that free gold up from something below there. And then the section for where we believe is the evidence. And really it's these holes here, but we included this to show that fragment of free gold here. But really the big zone that we've discovered in all the drilling is here. And that was my big question when we first took on the property, because we knew all of this drilling had occurred and the vein had been intersected in these different places. But a lot of these vein intersections just showed one phase of quartz. And if all you have is one phase of quartz, you often don't have mineralization. So just having a vein is really just ground preparation. You want to see 3 stages of silicification in the same zone, and we only see that so far in the 3 holes here. And here is modeling using gold tenors and textural observations. So this is showing where we believe the boiling zone has been identified and where we would be drilling to extend that would be in these areas here. I should say right here, shallow. So more shallow in this area and somewhat here. We don't know yet what the plunge is of the boiling zone. So same here, this is with silver. And then here we have indications that we could have a horizontal ore body and I should say boiling zone initially, which is where you expect to find the ore body. And then we could also have a plunge like this. Here is drill core showing 24.5, well, 0.68 meters of 0.18 grams gold and almost 9 grams silver. So lots of low sulfidation, typical alteration, shows a big system, not the grades we want yet, but very big system, which is fantastic. And then photo 2 is actually lattice calcite, so quartz after calcite. And that's again a very typical texture and mineralogy for low sulfidation. And then here you can see the coliform banded texture over here, all this. And then here you see several stages of silicification in different textures. And that's really getting into a good system. Now I'm going to show you 4 holes. So yeah, you're just in the same drill hole number 5, going deeper. And so you start out, you're finally at, and this is at 294 meters depth, finding some brecciation, some silicification, some indication of hydrothermal activity and chaotic. It's not chaotic yet, but at least it's very disruptive. And then here you're getting more quartz veining and more than one phase, because you've got your quartz here and then you've got a selvage here that would be a second, and then you're getting cross cutting. So that's why you're starting to get 3 phases. And then getting a little deeper, again, very interesting zone and a lot of the textures that you want to see in low sulfidation, an active zone, a boiling zone, and then even deeper. So that is the kind of core and the kind of rock that we really like to see. And this is what has helped Matt and Enrique determine that we think we know where the boiling zone is. And then just some of the quartz after calcite textures and very important structures. And this is how we see, this is our theoretical cross section now. So the Chiltepin vein sitting on one side of the graben and the 2 grabens, actually, North Graben and South Graben, and the Serape vein sitting there with the conglomerates between. And the conglomerates are very key. They're more of a porous, they're large class and more of a porous lithology. So they can be very key in these deposits in this area. So the work to delineate drill targets to continue is remapping on surface. And as I was mentioning, in order to find out the plunge of the controls to the mineralization and just all which way things are going, if you want to call it more easily, then we need to do a lot of surface mapping to understand lineaments within veins and such, and then where we're going to expect the jogs, the splays, secondary mineralization, and evidence of a plunge. And then relogging core, because we haven't been able to do that yet, but we do have most of the core on held by the company, Advanced Lithium. And then, yeah, again, just keep working on finding the where the boiling level is and the plunge. And the boiling level is not one, you know, as I said, it's over 250 meters average. So it's a large area. As you would imagine, the deposits that are under development, it's not a small area that's getting mined. Document all the geochemical evidence, and then contouring, do a 3D model, contour the gold and silver secondary minerals, the various textures and structural observations. That'll be part of our model, and for various reasons, but mostly for us to delineate the drill targets. So a summary on what's been done. There's been a fair bit of drilling, and that was the first question everybody has is, well, it's been drilled before, why haven't they found it? And it's because these deposits are complex, but we've come a long way since signing our agreement, and been able to find that, you know, we do have a distinctive, feel like we know where the boiling zone is in these 3 holes. The other holes haven't found it yet or haven't got there yet, so must be deeper or off to or in between something. So we'll be working on that, and yeah, it's just a good summary here. And then El Oro is I wasn't going to give an update on that at this moment, but very quickly, since I have time. So it's a very distinctive area that would mined 8 million ounce gold equivalent from only 2 of 20 veins with known past production. And that was only over 200 meters vertically. And we are working with somebody underground now to develop some drill targets for this, but very excited to get back in and to where we know there are higher grades in this newer area here. And yeah, the section, the slides, sorry, I'm tripping here because the slide I expected to be here isn't here, but that's okay. And then our team, so Matthew and Enrique, really the key guys that, and Enrique's not even on the slide, I apologize. But the 2 key guys that are our exploration that are really guiding this work on Serape, and a very experienced management and team, and then shares outstanding.
All right. Thank you, Joanne. Are you
Thank
good
you.
if we kick off with some questions?
Yeah, this is the zone that I don't know, somehow the slides got mixed up, but this was what I wanted to just talk about in LRO. So that's our key target. And I think everybody knows that, but in case there's any questions on that, I have that slide there. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. We will start off with an audience question. Joanne, your team has done a great job with a limited amount of data. It is exciting to have a highly prospective project next door to such an important project as Las Chispas. With a vein network or cluster of epithermal veins going through the Sarape project. So I guess, can you just elaborate a little bit more on the veins from Las Chispas to Sarape, and how they continue? I think I'm reading the last sentence here.
Yeah, I think the best slides we have are these 2. So it is a little bit difficult for some to understand that the veins are northwesterly, as ours are. So ours are paralleling Sarape, and Chiltepin are northwesterly, but there's a northeasterly control to the clusters. So here's a cluster and here's a cluster. And so the next cluster would be up here, which is where we have ours, which is basically shown here. So Las Chispas is south of here. And so But that's the way the controls to these. There's larger regional setting controls, so possibly deeper. But I think as far as how we're connected, that's the best I can say. But you can see that right here. There's chiltepin veins identified, and obviously somebody who was working both properties at once named the chiltepin vein we have here, and then Serape is up here.
Okay, got it.
And there's just many similarities of our style of mineralization and such to Las Chispas, but also to all or many low sulfidation systems.
Mhm.
So we're very proximal to Las Chispas, and we expect to be part of the similar, the more regional system. Having said that, we're very much like El Oro. It's low sulfidation epithermal, 8 million ounce gold equivalent produced. Many other systems geologically, very, very similar. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. And just touching on the past drilling, in retrospect, do you have a sense of how much past of the past drilling the boiling zone did target? And in retrospect, what did the prior drilling miss in targeting, the silver gold mineralization?
Sure. Let me jump back to the cross section here. So really here you can see we found the boiling zone. They found the boiling zone in these holes here, and in this one just the free gold that came from somewhere below. I mean, it could have even come from nearby this way, but something below, because it's a breccia, so it's a broken fragment that came from below. Other than that, even though they got vein over here in all these other intersections, it wasn't the boiling zone. So when our guys looked at the core, or the photos of the core, because we haven't actually really looked at the core ourselves yet, it's probably one stage of quartz. So it is a vein, but it's a 5 kilometer strike length. And within that, you're going to find your boiling zones and the goodies, let's say. So all those other holes didn't find the boiling zone yet. So, and we need to find the plunge to the boiling zone. So potentially, for instance, if your plunge was like this, well, it's just gone below that hole. But there's a wide space between holes as well. So you could have an ore body and then it's offset by certain faulting. So you could have it starting here. I mean, we've drawn it like this because we did connect it to this free gold in the breccia. But if otherwise, we'd be sitting here saying we don't know which way it's going, and the plunge could be like this, or then there can be a fault and it can be offset, or it could be moved up or down. So there's just a lot of geometry that happens in these systems that until you do more structural work from surface and really looking at the core and then more drilling.
Got it. Thank you. And then, Joanne, it looks like there could be a cross-cutting structure or structures between the Serape and Chiltepin veins. Do you think these cross-cutting structures could play a role in the mineralizing system?
Absolutely. Any structures can play a role in mineralizing systems.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is, I think the best image to be seeing where, there could be other structures for sure. But this is Sarape is outcropping here, and Chiltepin is outcropping here. And then you have several lineaments here. And then you also had our model, which showed right here, the two veins on either side, different grabens.
Got it.
And those are the two that are outcropping. There can be a multitude of veins that are not coming to surface
Mhm.
or not found yet on surface.
Right. And then one more question. It is my understanding that blind veins in a cluster of epithermal veins can be important as well. Do you think that potential could be open at Serape?
Yeah, absolutely. and that's what we were just discussing actually. Between these veins, there can be many more. And El Oro, there's 50 known veins documented, and some were found on surface, and some are actually covered by younger volcanics. So absolutely lots of blind veins in all of these systems.
Um, and just touching on the current drill target definition, can you remind us how much of the past drill core does Xali have available for this target definition program? And beyond the drill core, what some of the other information the team is using?
Well, all of the drill core all of the drilling that was done, the core is in possession of the company of Advanced Lithium. They've told me they've got all the core. So we've been working on the photographs of the core so far, and they're very well photographed. So that's not an issue. But as far as like, actually getting into the core, we'll be looking for more textures, probably sampling more of the core than was sampled before, because some of textures we're recognizing that some of the geologists didn't. Now there's all the geochemical data, and there's 30, I believe 31 element ICP. So that's a lot to also see what we can model out of different elements and what it shows for halo effect and such.
Thank you. And do you have a sense of how long the team would need for the drill target definition before, planning a potential drill?
I would say 3 to 6 months. Now we will work in jointly at the same time on the permitting and on our delineation work. So we're not going to do one and then the other. So 3 to 6 months for drilling, because they had drill permits in the past.
Right.
So they
Okay.
expired so we just have to, reapply with the same information.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And how much on the ground work is planned for Sarape this year?
On the ground?
Yeah.
I thought you said underground.
No, no. I think I
On
saw
the ground.
mapping in the
Yeah.
press release.
Right. Yeah, no, the first thing would be relogging all the drill core and mapping everything we
Okay.
can with structural specialists under the guise of Matt. Yeah. And
Okay.
Enrique for understanding. They both have immense knowledge of these systems, so they'll be overseeing all the work.
Okay.
But there's lots on the ground. Yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully drilling as soon as possible. Yeah.
Thank you. And looking at the big picture at Serape, how big is the property? The press release mentions two main epithermal veins. Do these remain open? And can you tell us about the potential for additional veins or where that might be?
Well, there's lots of, I don't have a map of let me see I guess there's the map of the property. So these veins are known here, and easily, I think Sarape could be extending to the southeast. Siltapen certainly could be extending this way and this way, northwest and southeast. And you can see there's lots of room for other veins. These ones happen to have been found right, on the border of the conglomerate and in a graben structural setting. But that's not to say that other things can't be found in this large area here or to the southwest. And once we understand the controls, better controls, structural controls to the boiling zone, then we'll know more. But 5 kilometers is plenty anyway. But but yes, there could actually be lots more. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. And looking at one of the slides in the deck on the website, there are a number of operating mines in the part of northern Mexico where Sarape is. Do you know if there is a similar level of activity in terms of exploration?
There
Yeah.
certainly has been in the past. I don't know very currently exactly what's going on with exploration in the area. I know Mercedes has a big exploration package, and I would assume there is a lot of activity right now in Sonora, but some of it, yeah, I don't know. I shouldn't say.
Okay. And just in terms of news flow, Can you give us a highlight of some of the news items investors can look forward to over the next coming months?
Yes, well, certainly just advancing these drill targets and drill permitting will be the key thing for Serape and funding for the company and moving ahead with El Oro as well. And then also something we're working on in Peru.
Got it. Thank you, Joanne. You answered all of my questions. I don't see any other audience questions. Was there anything else you
Okay.
wanted to touch on today?
No, I think that's great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you to the audience for all the questions. If anybody has any other questions or would like a follow-up, please email info@adcap.ca. And thank you for joining us. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Joanne.
you very much. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.